Hello, everyone. My name is Alena Khvorova. I am an ELT consultant at Linguist Publishing House, and today is the first day that we are getting to know each other. Actually, I am recording this video, our today first session, because there might be some problems with electricity and internet connection. So in case you're watching this video, apparently I have no electricity or something happened like that. But I hope we still can have fun, have a productive time together, and you enjoy and find this today's meeting very useful. So today our topic is prepare for school exams, ace the test, and we are going to start. So the overview of our session is you're going to have a look at the test structure, especially ZNO. This is the most well-known test that is going to be held in Ukraine. We're going to have a look at techniques and tips on high-quality performance, learning approaches that really help understand the material, ready-to-use worksheets and other materials, and a quick review of Prepare for All Exams book. So to start our today's meeting, I would like to tell you a story of how 1% performance improvements led to Olympic gold. So this is the story of 2002 when Sir Dave Brailsford became a head of British cycling team. And by that time, the team had almost no record of success, only wild golden medal in 76-year history so far. But that all quickly changed when he became their leader. And already in 2008, in Beijing Olympics, they won 7 out of 10 gold medals. And after that, 4 years later, in London Olympics, they achieved the same success and won a lot of gold medals. So what is the key element to all this? And we are going to have a look at Sir Dave's words. So when we first started out, the top of Olympic podium seemed like a very long way away. Aiming for gold was too daunting. It struck me one day that we should think small, not big, and adopt a philosophy of continuous improvements. Forget about perfection, focus on progression and compound the improvements. So what they did, they actually focused on big and small things. They started searching for improvements in aerodynamics, bike maintenance. They painted the floor white to spot any impurities, and they bought mattresses and pillows to sleep in the same posture for their team. They even hired a surgeon to teach the team how to wash their hands properly in order to not to get sick, during their performances in Olympics. So Sir Dave also says that we searched for small improvements everywhere and found countless opportunities. Taken together, we felt they gave us a competitive advantage. So I am telling you this story just for you to know that there is no magic pill actually. It doesn't exist. And what we actually need to do is to search for some small and big things, combine them together and make a huge difference on the exam. So a lot of things are going to be great for the exams, but here I'm going to show you my top things that I'm using that are scientifically approved, and I hope you will find them useful. But actually, you can find a lot more things, work on them, and just enjoy the process of preparation for the exam. So today we talk how to put all the strategies, all the approaches together and make it really work. And in order to do the students passed in a formal exam, students need to have a lot of information about the test. So here are the things that I think are important. They need to know that they are being tested and they shouldn't be afraid of it. They need to know what they are being tested on. They need to know how to do the test, obviously, and they need to be well prepared for the content. I need to give them manageable results, and I need to give them an opportunity to reflect. And we are going to have a look at each of the stages closely in a close-up, and I'm going to give you some practical tips that I'm constantly using, and I hope you find them interesting and also useful. So about know that they are being tested, what do I mean? Sometimes we put together a lot of work on strategies and things that help our students to be successful during the preparation for the test, but we don't pay too much attention to the emotional part of a test, yeah? And when the day comes, students are so stressed that they just fell down. They are completely, under pressure and they don't know what to do with it. They can handle their emotions. And all the work that you've been doing for so long, it just goes somewhere really away. And for this not to happen, we need to talk to our students. We need to tell them that the test scores are not a reflection of their self-worth, of their mind, of how clever they are. They are an evaluation of learning strategies they've put, you and them, we've put into practice. So this day, it's actually the day when we see our mutual work. There is nothing to be afraid of. We need to stay calm, concentrated, and this is actually only a day, but we have a long road with you together to learn a lot of things, to achieve a lot of impressive things also. And the day comes and we actually show what we have achieved together. This is what I always tell to my students, and I tell them it a lot until the moment they realize that there is nothing to be afraid of. I just don't want to read the moment of a year or half of a year or 2 years where we work on that so hard and then it just, goes away. So they know that they are being tested. They need to know the day, so what day it is, and they don't have to be afraid of it. They shouldn't be afraid of it. And of course, the question that comes up to our minds is like, and what to expect this year, because the circumstances are extremely unusual. Yes, and there are a lot of talking about the type of an exam and everything, but the Ministry of Education tells us that if you're preparing for the NO test, you need to be prepared for the NO test. You are going to pass the NO test. Nothing is for sure with multi-subject test. So these are just thoughts. Do not focus on that too much. Focus on what you need to do and to know. And in terms, you're going to have some changes. The strategies that we are going to look at today, they will help you with different tasks because the tasks are pretty much the same everywhere. And knowing how to do them, the variety of the tasks, you will be able to manage any type of the task that you will face with. Good. So, and if we are talking about ZNO preparation, and we have discussed that emotional part is very important, right? Now it's time to talk about this stage. Students need to know what they are being tested on. and we are focusing here on ZNO as an example. So the students need to know the rules of the game, right? So I'm going to give you a minute to think about this ZNO quiz. You have some numbers, they are connected to ZNO rules. And think what these numbers actually mean connected to ZNO and ZNO rules. I'll give you like just 30 seconds to think about it. You may write down some information in your notebook or just think about it in your mind. Okay. So some of you already understood the meanings of these four numbers. And now it's just the right time to understand and to have a look again at the rules of the game if we talk about ZNO test. So what do we have? We have a formal exam. We have the time to do this exam. It's 150 minutes. We have 59 tasks in this test of there are 5 different types of tasks. We are going to have a look at these types of tasks a little bit later. So yeah, this is in the test, 59 tasks. There are 5 types of the tasks, yeah. The structure of this test, so we are going to show the skills of listening, reading, use of English, and writing in this type of test. And we get maximum score in the test is like 72 points. It's the maximum score. We have 14 points for writing, and we have 58 tasks left, and you get 1 point for each answer. Good. So the 5 types of tasks that are present in ZNO is multiple choice. We have it in listening and reading. We have true or false type of task in listening. We have gap filling in reading. We have matching in reading also, and we have a writing type of tasks. So these are the types of tasks, and those are rules for the game. We know the time, and your students need to know the time even better than you do. The type of tasks and how to do this type of tasks, how to manage them. They need to know it even better than you know, because we see it like every single year, and this is only like 1 or 2 chances for them to face with it and do it. So they need to know it like, you know, your hands, you know. Good. So, and thing that I'm sharing with you today is, so the great news about passing an exam is that it's more a case of a technique than intelligence. And that's what we also tell to our students. So you don't have to be afraid of it. There is nothing to be scared of. You just need to know the techniques. You know the types of the tasks. Now you need to know the techniques. Also, you need to know why you do these types of tasks, what the examiner is going to check here, like what skills you need to have, a skill of paraphrasing, yeah, a skill of giving your point of view, and how you can do this. So this is the type of our session where we talk about how to do the test. And of course, we are focusing here on strategies with doing the test. So you see here a page from a book, and I'm going to present you today a book prepared for all exams. Some of you are already using it. Some of you do not use it and maybe don't want to use it. That's your own business. But what you can actually do already with this book for free is download or have a look at page 11, which is in this book. So this page 11, it's a magical thing, actually, you can use. These are the explanations of the strategies of the format for Zeno test that have been created. This page has been created for Zeno tests for like Ukrainian teachers to use it with their students. So you can just like take it and use it for free. At the end of our session, I'm going to give you a quick review at the book, and there will be a QR code. You can like scan the QR code and you will find in the teacher's book this page 11. This is a crucial page. In case you don't have the strategies in your own course book, you can take this one. So this page is crucial. We will have a look at it a bit closer. What's in this page? So this is a close-up of a task here. So in the first column, we can see a type of a task. We can see the time and the score. So we actually have a type of reading here. The task is task 4 in the block of reading. For block of reading, we have 40 minutes to do it, yes, and we get 22 points if we do everything well in the reading part. Okay, so in the second column, you can find what's being tested. This is very important to tell your students that this part of a test tests your understanding of short text. This part of a test requires from you to give an example in a written form. This is checking how well you can communicate and put everything into practice. Yes, everything that you have learned. And the third column in here, the column of strategies, yes? So you know what the examiner wants to see, wants to hear. And now this is the way of you actually doing it. You can learn it step by step, put it into practice, and everything is going to be great. And the fourth column in here is the column where you can find it everything in prepare book, exercise by exercise, page by page. Okay. So as far as the strategies are very important, I would suggest you to have a look at a couple of things and think about it together, yes, how we can implement that everything in our lessons with students. Okay. And what we are going to start with? We are going to start with a Zeno reading task. This is task 5, where you have a long text and multiple choice here. Yes, the type of a task which is multiple choice. You have a large text in here. Then you have 5 questions with 4 options to choose from. So when you go to this part of a test, you and I, we actually explain students that what this part requires from you. So this part here tests student detailed understanding of opinion, attitude, purpose, main idea, and some details of long text. So what you need to understand here, my dear student, is that you need to understand like all opinions, attitudes, the purpose of this text, the main idea of this text, the details that you have, yes, of this long text, and give answers to the questions. Okay. And here is the stage by stage things that we can do. So we have a look at the first one, and we print this out to our students actually, so they can have a look at it as much as they need to memorize that, yeah. So first of all, we just skim the text very briefly, very quickly to find out the general meaning and the topic of the test. So it's actually a good idea to set the timer for this task, because sometimes skimming can take a bit longer than you expect. So you just take your phone or anything and you set the timer like 1 minute or 2 minutes, and you can be sure that skimming is skimming and not like full reading. You can give some different things here that will help them with skimming. Like you can look through with your eyes the text quickly. You can have a look at how the paragraph begins and how it ends, and do not read everything. So give them ideas of how to skim the text. Yeah. It's always a good idea to check the title of a text, to check some pictures, to understand the main idea of the text better, the idea of this text in general. So once they've done it, there is the second stage, yes? The students read the questions with the given options and underline keywords. They will focus their attention on the information they will have to check in the text. Also remind students that the ideas of the correct opinion are usually phrased in text. Okay, so about number 2, you can do this option. You read the questions with given options and underline keywords. Yes, but just keywords, yes. So it's important, it should be like 2-3 keywords, so they will have their attention into what they really need to look for. And sometimes it's also a good idea to adjust this second stage in that way. What I usually do with my students, I ask my students to read the questions and underline keywords in the questions without looking at the answers, because sometimes our brain does tricky thing with us. When we look at the options, we can choose the option that looks quite interesting for us, and sometimes this works like that, and it can be true. But actually, this is a tricky thing that students sometimes do. And usually I try to avoid this one. It doesn't work 100% like that. Sometimes this option is better because students can get lost and just giving their attention to what they really need to look for. It's sometimes better to to underline the question and the options, so they can like use their fingers and find in the paragraph information about it. No, yeah, no, that's not it. Information about it. No, it's not it. About it. About it. So I circle this option because I have the proof that I have this information. Yeah. So here it's up to you to choose which one to use. If your students, like they like picking up an option and try to adjust the text to the option they've chosen, this is better to use. If not, if they need to have a look at all options and find the correct one, okay, use the second idea that is given here. It's up to you and to your students to decide. Then, when you finally understood what type you're going to use and you underlined keywords and phrases, you start reading the text more carefully. This is the third stage, yeah? You read the text more carefully. They need to look at each question and compare each option with the text before choosing one. I remind them to check the choice of answer carefully with the text again. So when they have already chosen the answer, they need to check if they are right or wrong. Yes, so they need to ask here questions to themselves. Is this correct? Why? Is this wrong? Why? They need to find the proofs themselves. If they don't have proofs and they can prove it to themselves, probably the answer is not correct. So here, draw their attention, they need to check their correct answers again, once they've chosen them. What I want to add here to number 3 is that actually you need to mind the sequence. What do I mean by that? So all these questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, when you choose the answers, yes, they go in the same order that it is in the text. So if, for example, your student has number 1, number 2, the student can find the answer to number 3 and has number 4, explain to your student that the answer to the third one is between the answer with number 2 and number 4, because like the sequence is the same in the questions and in the text. So they do not need to waste their time, their precious time, on reading, the text again and again. No, you have the answer here, you have the answer here. Look for the answer between that two. Okay. And the fourth stage in here is to suggest, to check their options and decide why they are wrong. Actually, I combined this one, but you can divide it. Prove that you're right and have a look and prove that you're wrong with these ones. If they do it step by step, they are quite successful and everything works, then you did your job perfectly well using the strategies and everything. The next example I'm going to discuss with you today is going to be a bit challenging, and this is writing. Okay, so a bit of statistics in here. Only 5 to 7% of students get the highest score in this part, in writing. And more than 25% of students get 0 for this part. So what it tells us? It actually tells us that the writing part is the most challenging and difficult part that we can face with. So yes, it's our responsibility to work with students on this one, because it takes a lot of mutual work. You and them together. But it's not actually that difficult if you really use the strategies and you work together and you listen to them, they are listening to you, you work in a group. Just here, every detail is important. Students need to learn in details how to deal with the written tasks in details, stage by stage. Okay. So we begin analyzing the writing task. It's a good idea to start analyzing it with your students from this point of view. Okay, so you are going to, or we are going to have a writing part today. In a writing part, the examiner wants to see your ability to write short texts with a real communicative purpose. So how well you can communicate in a written form. That's what is expected from you. Okay. In this part, you write in your letter or email at least 150 words. Better to use more. We know it. And here are the criteria that the examiner is going to evaluate in this part. So there are 4 criteria that are going to be checked. The criteria of content, of structure and coherence, vocabulary and grammar. And what do they want to see with the content? So the content is actually these 3 things in bullet points. About yourself and your family, some things about your home and area, about your hobbies and interests. This is the content. So you are writing to a person to tell some information. This information that you need to write is given in the task. So if you don't write this information, there is no content, which is quite obvious here. So your content is these 3 bullet points that you need to write about. When you, my dear student, write for structure and coherence, what the examiner wants. Here, the examiner wants in the structure and coherence to have a look at correspondence of written expressions to the given format, yeah, and the logic and coherence of the written text. It means that you need to use conjunctions and linking words. Your writing should be smooth and logical. It should be easy to read it. And you need to mind the style of the writing part, because if you are writing an email to your friend, you are writing it in informal or formal way. Of course, informal. If you're writing like an email to a company, for example, what kind of tone do you need to choose, formal or informal? Formal. And this what you explain to your students. Then you have vocabulary and grammar, and you tell that this is a great opportunity for you to show off, to show everything that we have learned, the great range of vocabulary and grammar that we've been studying for so long. This is a great opportunity for you to use that. But the correctness is also important here. So it's not like you need to use some interesting phrases you don't really understand. No, everything should be logical and everything should be correct. Yes. And then you give your student this task to have a look at. And you read this task with your students that you have received a letter from your new English pen friend. He or she tells you some things about himself or herself. Write a letter to your pen friend, tell him or her these 3 things. Write a letter with at least 150 words. Do not write here, you highlight this here, that you don't need to write your own name, any dates, addresses, or any personal information at all, and you start your letter in appropriate way. So you need to think about what to write. It's better to use the draft before you start writing. Yes, you need to think about what you're going to write, what style you're going to choose, how you would replace the names and everything. And while creating this draft, you will analyze this everything together with me. But this will give you, if you mention everything in a logical and right way, 2 scores, 2 points, 2 points, and 2 points, 6. If you have structure and coherence, 2 and 2 again, 2 for vocabulary, 2 for grammar, and you get 14 points together. Next, what I do with my students, like always, and what is in Prepare Book, what I actually like, I always give the example, because you can understand how to write it, you can have all these strategies together, and you can't visualize it, and you fail. No, we don't do it. We have the example, and what we do, we ask our students actually to be an examiner. You give them the task again, we read this task, and we analyze what we have in the example. We analyze how well we described the content, all the conjunctions and linking words present or not, what style the writer have chosen, formal or informal. If it's informal, then we have here contractions like I am, or like, or where is anything else, like hi and best, you don't write your sincerely and everything, or you can have here like not best, like love, catty, and everything. So you discuss it with your students, you decide about it a lot, then you do the structuring thing, is like what parts of the writing we have. We have a greeting part. What other greeting parts are possible or not possible? What way of writing a greeting? What is the way of writing a greeting part? Opening remarks, what to write for opening. Drill these remarks, analyze it with your students so they will have like 2 or 3 already with them to use. Then you have a look that you have three main paragraphs where you describe each of these things, every new idea in a separate paragraph. So you write these 3 different ideas in 3 different paragraphs. You have here 1, 2, and 3. Then you have closing, also a good way to give like some things that can help your students with closing. For example, write back soon, or I hope to hearing from you soon, and everything. Like give 2, 3 options for your students so they could use that. And the ending, you have like Best and Carl, yeah? So your students have analyzed the task in the example and they gave the score to this type of writing. And only now it's time for them to write their own type of a letter or email, and you give them the you give them the strategies so they will know step by step what to do. And sometimes it's a good idea also to give them what they need to what the examiner is going to have a look at, so they will understand everything. Yeah, going stage by stage is also great. You can go stage by stage here, compare it visually to the example that have been here, get back to this, check the content. I've done these 3. Check the structure and coherence. I used like these conjunctions and linking words. My style is absolutely appropriate to this letter. You check vocabulary and grammar and its correctness. Yeah, so every time you need to check everything that you have written. And of course, you check that you have not less than 150 words. You didn't use any personal information, and then the writing is done. It's not always the end, but the writing is done. They are ready to write it. They have like an imaginary picture in their head what to do. They have the task, they have an example, they know what they need to do, what the examiner expects from them. So the chances of writing a good essay, not essay, a good email or letter, the chances are pretty high. Okay. And so like we have talked about some strategies, everything, how to do well, how to be confident about the things that we are doing. But here is an important thing: how to learn that all, how to learn all the strategies, how to learn the vocabulary and grammar. There's a bunch of everything going on, and how to memorize it. And of course, I've prepared for you, where we have the stage be well prepared for the content, some tips that will help your students to really, really memorize all the information that is needed for the exam. And the best information here is that you do not need to cram a lot, to hit the books every day from, I don't know, 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock and everything. It's not going to work actually. All this cramming, it's not working. Because the most important function of our brain is actually to forget information. And we need to do something that all this information that we need sticks in our head and never leaves it. And how to do it? So there was a research, and I've given you here a book, Make It Stick. The Science of Successful Learning. So you can Google it if you want to. And this book concentrates on two interesting methods, which is active recall and spaced repetition. So active recall, it's actually a thing that you use for your students and for yourself when you have put information in your head and you're using then your brain to get it from your brain. Yes, this is what is active recall. So I'll give you a simple example of it. Please think about something that you have eaten for breakfast today. Mm-hmm. Try to revise it from your memory. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is actually how we use active recall in, quite common sphere, daily sphere. But as for studying, it's a bit different. And we will have a look at the examples. So you are searching in your brain for the information that you have put once there. And spaced repetition, it once was created, this strategy was created with flashcards, but actually we use it even without flashcards. It's when we try to revise information as much as possible, yes, all the time. So you have, for example, learned some words and phrases, some grammar structures in the first unit, and then when you are in the unit 4, you're like, aha, it's time to repeat that for you not to forget it. And every time when you use these techniques, you actually what you do is you make your brain memorize it for a long period of time, and you will use it afterwards. Okay, so here are the things that I'm using, the ways that I apply these two things into practice. So, of course, one of the best way to do this is to use flashcards, and we already know about that. Just do not forget about this. You use flashcards with phrases and difficult words like Quizlet or any other app for flashcards, and you memorize information with flashcards. Yes, so you kind of do it with pictures or just words and phrases, it doesn't matter. And from time to time you get them back to a lesson and you revise these words with your students. It's always a good and great idea. Okay, so the next thing is we learn a topic, for example. Then we ask our students to close their books. It works great with, for example, grammar or actually with pretty much everything. But I usually use it with grammar things or with writing. So we have learned like a topic. Then I ask my students to close their books and to write a diagram or a draft or a drawing of everything that they remembered. Yeah, so it's like we talked about it, and then we read it, we tried to analyze it, we tried to put it into practice, we closed the books, and now write down a diagram or a drawing or a draft of how to actually use it. Like, and they create some diagrams and everything, how they use it, why they need to use it, and everything. It's a good idea. Give them at the beginning of this, give them 3 times to check information in the book for their knowledge, because it's at the beginning it can be a total mess when they start doing it. Yes, they can like, what, to write down a drawing? I don't remember anything. Okay, if you don't remember anything, you have 3 attempts, go for it and use it. Okay, the next thing that I'm constantly using is this one. I create a word list. not just a simple word list, but word list for difficult words and phrases with extra tasks. So we have read the text, for example, or have worked on difficult vocabulary, and I actually want them to remember it. And I create, I'm going to show you, I create such type of a task. So I write down the words from the text or the word that we've learned. Then I go to Cambridge Dictionary. I search for the definition, the parts of speech of these words, and I mix them. Here, they are not in a logical way, obviously. And the first task for my students is to match the word with the definition. And then what they do, they, after the matching and checking, they use these words again when we checked, when we understand their meanings, we use them like in the sentences. Yeah, so we need to make sure that they use it in an appropriate content. Yeah, in appropriate context. And in the gaps, they write these words and phrases. This one is the task that I am doing with my students. Okay, next one is CCQs or concept checking questions. I do not let my students, just read the book or listen to me and just like ask them question, do you understand? And they're like, of course we do. I do not let even myself to do this. Okay, so every time I explain my students a grammar topic or vocabulary, we have been looking for some interesting words and phrases and vocabulary, I ask them questions. For example, let's pick a topic, comparatives. Let's pick a topic, comparatives. Okay, this is a simple topic, actually, not for B1, B2, but okay, nevertheless. We give them an example, and at this at the beginning of this, we actually may ask them concept checking questions. For example, okay, so we today learned how to compare, and have a look at the example. In order to compare, do we need one or two things? And then they start analyzing already. They turn on their brain, they start answering the questions and everything, and they are ready to work. You give them explanations. Then you, for example, say what part of speech is that we are using then when we want to compare something. What part of speech is it? Is it a noun, an adjective, a verb? An adjective. Do we use a regular adjective, or we like create something to that adjective? Okay, good. What do we need to add to an adjective? In every way, or just like with maybe small words, and so on and so forth. And when you see them for the next lesson, you actually may start asking them questions to check how well they remember everything you've discussed. Yeah, so again, the same questions with the example, but now they need to tell you more information. Once you was the one who told everything, and now it's like their turn to tell all this information to you. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is guided discovery method. This is the method also close to, everything that we were doing with concept checking questions. For example, you are presenting the grammar, but for B1 and B2 level students, they are really tired of listening to you all the time, and it's their time to show off. And you have the examples, and it's their time to analyze examples and to say what they see in here. And in guided discovery, the questions like they lead students to understand the concept. Yeah. So guided discovery is a very good method with B1, B2 level students, where you just talk and explain to each other the topic, instead of, you, the teacher, saying it all and all and all over again. And they are a bit tired of it. It's their time to analyze it and to show how much they know about it. Good. Next thing is more about repetition, spaced repetition. When you give your students lots of tests, I'm not saying that you just give them test, and tests. No, from time to time, you give them tests, different type of tests, multiple choice or interesting types of tasks like these, so they could see the information they are learning as much as possible. And so they could see the results of what they have already achieved, what they already know. You give them as many tests as you need to give them, and you together see the information as much as possible, and you can evaluate how many or how much of that you already know. And also, it's a very good idea, actually, that one of my teachers did to our class. She asked us to create a test. And it was quite interesting because students in my life have never been searching for so many tricky things as it was that time. So we searched for the most difficult phrases and words, and we revised everything that was quite challenging for us. And then we gave these tests to our teacher, and she combined from all our questions a separate test that we were doing, and we memorized a lot. Like, we were searching for some tricky information, and we remembered a lot of tricky information, actually. And after that, we did this test in a very great way. So yes, this is always a good idea to ask your students to create a test, because they are they're crazy about it. Okay. So these are the ideas how to apply active recall and spaced repetition in practice, but there are a lot more ideas than the ones that I gave you. These are just the ones that I'm constantly using. You can actually create your own ways of active recall and spaced repetition. You can Google actually active recall and spaced repetition methods and find out more interesting things to do with your students. Okay. Oh, now I need to. Okay, good. So we were speaking about the test, and here is the next thing that I want to tell you about. Students need to be given all manageable results that are possible. So it's been a long way that with you and your students, you've done a lot in this way, yes, and it's always a good idea to show them how much they have already accomplished. So with the previous thing that I was talking about, lots of tests, they can evaluate where they are now, and they can manage all the things they need to do to go further, to get to the final point. So they need to understand what they already did and what they need to do before the final point. Yeah. So the thing that I told you, that I'm going to share with you some tips and free vocabulary and grammar, and here you can see this QR code. This is for prepare for all exams, free vocabulary, grammar, and writing worksheets that will help you to have lots of tests with your students, lots of additional tasks. It's always a good idea to practice more and more of these things with your students. So you're welcome. You can scan it and enjoy it with your students. There are a lot of interesting tasks you can actually use. Okay, great. I hope I can move on. Good. And one more thing that I wanted to discuss with you today. I always, and you, I hope, need to give an opportunity or opportunities to our students to reflect. So once they finished a task or they finished a test or you are at the end of the lesson, give them time to think how how the lesson went. Was everything okay with it? Could they perform better? What went wrong? Are there anything that they didn't really get? And I'm going to show you actually a way of doing this reflection thing with your students a little bit later. But it's always a good idea to reflect why. Because when you've done a test and you ask your students all these questions, it actually allows your students to discover what they find challenging for themselves and which things they need to get progress. Yeah. It gives students a deeper understanding of tasks. Yeah, so once they reflect and they tell what went wrong and you discuss it with them, again, they have a look at the tasks and they understand it better. So the time that you spend on reflecting is never useless because it's active recall and spaced repetition in action. Yeah. And it allows your students and you to have a discussion on how to get better. Yeah, so you and your students will know the way of dealing with problems. You will talk, about some things that they find difficult, and you will have, like a clue to each other to understand each other better, some ways to help the students of in dealing with all the things, and it's also it's always a good way to spend like 3-4 minutes before you finish a lesson or after a test. They need to tell you how they actually feel after doing that. Okay. Here I'm going to tell you about prepare. Actually, all the tasks that were present in here, they all were from prepare. So in prepare course, we have a student's book, workbook, and teacher's book. There is a QR code that you can use to find all the necessary information about this course. So please, you're free to use it. And I'm going to tell you that this course is for 10th grade students. It is B1 or between B1 and B2 level for your students, yeah. It consists of 20 units. It has a culture section, 5 culture sections, 5 life skills sections, a lot of reviews, plus a lot of tests, yeah, for reviews. It has amazing audio and video content, by the way. The special feature is writing lessons. You have seen that already, right? The task was from prepare book, obviously. Also, this book has unique tests. They are amazing. The previous QR code for free vocabulary and grammar also can show you this. And a wide range of lexical and grammar topics are present here. Grammar topics, they are presented in a guided discovery approach, as we've already seen. So it's also a good idea it's not a good idea, it's a good thing that we have in this book, and you don't need to, think how to apply this. Okay. So today, we have studied some things. Let's have a look at active recall into practice. Let's put it into practice. Okay, so here are some things that we discussed today. Try to revise everything that we have discussed And why we need that? Oh, I'm sorry. Um, so we have 5 types of tasks. Why to use strategies? What is active recall and spaced repetition? CCQs, what is that? Why to give manageable results? And why to reflect? Try to think about it, memorize it, and revise it again. Once you've done that, I promised you one more interesting activity on how to reflect. And this activity is for you now. This is a way of active recall that we've put in practice, yes. And now another activity is an activity on how to reflect that I'm going to have with you. Okay. Okay, the activity that I like giving to my students, it's this one. 3 categories. We have 3 categories. The category, I don't need that. So we have done a task or it's been a long lesson. And just please tell me the things that you don't need after this lesson or from this task. Things you need to think about after this lesson and something that you will take with you. Okay. And I want to ask you to think about the things that you don't need, things that you need to think about after this meeting, and think that you will definitely take with you. Okay. So, your ideas and your thoughts are really welcomed in the comments. You can write this down. I will be more than happy to see information from you. You can use this activity with your students also. This is an enjoyable thing to do. When you see some things, for example, in a backpack, this is amazing, they are going to use it. The things that they need to think about is the things that we actually need to revise. They maybe understand it, but not completely, or they maybe need time to have a look at it more and more again. And that's in a basket that may be boring, that might be boring, or we need to pay attention in here because sometimes students maybe just didn't get what we were talking about, and we need to have a look at this thing again, especially if it's something essential that we need to use in the exam, for example. Yeah. Okay. So it's time to finish our today's meeting, and this is our page on Facebook. You can see every interesting event that is going to happen, some posts that we consultants write for you teachers to use. This is our site, Publishing Linguist UA, where we also have some articles, where we have all our books. You can have a look at them. Yeah. And today, the speaker of our meeting is me, Alena Khvorova. It was a pleasure to not to see you, unfortunately, but to be with you, to feel you today. And you will get your certificates after this session. The certificates are for your attendance and the way how well you participated in this meeting. You will get them during 1 to 3 working days. I will send them to you to your email address, so there is nothing to be worried about. If you haven't seen them by the end of the week, please contact me. There is my email address, there is my number. Feel free to call me, text me, or to send some emails to me. Will be a pleasure for me always. Thank you so much for your attention. Be safe, stay in a great mood. It was a great pleasure to see you. Enjoy your day. All the best to you. Goodbye.